Hi there, Sagittarius. It's really uncanny how often I got the Devil, the Tower, and the Death card in this series. And you received the Death card twice and the Devil. And then I got a spattering of other major arcana cards. In particular, it was Judgment, the World, the Hangman, and Temperance. And here you received the Judgment, Temperance, and the World. And strangely enough, in the past you received the Judgment, and in the future the last clarification card was the World. So it's saying if you can go through this gauntlet from the past with Judgment, you're going to end a cycle with the World. And another thing about this series is that there was a lot of really negative cards that were counterbalanced with really positive cards. So it kind of appeared to me that there was an acceptance of defeat and victory at the same time. I think we're still flushing out negative things to bring in positive things from the endings and new beginnings that are happening. Now the past cards on the left, you received the Ten of Swords and the Judgment card. Don't feel alone, everybody got crappy past cards. The Ten of Swords is saying that you feel betrayed, stabbed in the back. Maybe even you were abused. It was just there was some heavy momentum that brought you to a crash and burn point. There's been suffering, pain, and loss. This is like the darkest hour kind of syndrome, but then there's an ending and a release because this is a number 10. That's the number of endings and new beginnings. So it is saying that the worst is over. And the best thing you can do is acceptance. That's the key to surviving this. Because the day is going to be dawning and the dark clouds are going to be dispersing. And there will be change. But before there's change, you have to go through the Judgment card. Now you might be judging other people for their behavior, but maybe you're judging yourself too for the performance, or maybe the failure of what happened in this situation. You know, if you start pointing the finger at people for blame, blame brings ownership and it comes back to you. So now just accept what happened. And start forgiving yourself because that's the key to the Judgment card. The word grace actually means unconditional forgiveness. You have to forgive yourself and you have to forgive other people before you can have a rebirth, before you can resurrect and be the phoenix and rise from the ashes. The one redeeming feature of all this is that this is in the past. Now over for the base of your spine, for what I call sourcing and urgings. And this is from experiences from even past lives up to today and how you feel about it unconsciously. You receive the Devil and the Lover's card. Oh, need I say more? I mean, that mixture is just an explosion in itself. You've been in some kind of overload or obsessed, and with it being the Lover's card, it could be about a relationship. Maybe just some intense or out of control anger. And a lot of times it's denial. We're not all addicted to drugs and booze, sugar and sex. But sometimes we are addicted to bringing out our shadow self and bringing avarice into it, just extreme greed and selfishness. That's a major pitfall for man. And there is some kind of temptation to continue this routine that seems to have evolved into your life. Whatever it is, it's in the extremes, the ultimate extremes. You have to start balancing this out because we do have choices. And that's what the Lover's card is about, is choices. The choices between vice and virtue. When you choose vice, you choose bondage. You choose consequences. You choose blame. The Lover's card is about impulsive desires that you have to temper. You have to temper and balance your unconscious versus your conscious self, your physical versus your spiritual self, with the vice and virtue. You have to relinquish the 7 deadly sins to do the right thing. And the choices you make now will choose your path in life, your destiny. And the cards up above for your sacrum and pelvic, for what I call awakening, our growth of all kinds, and as well sexual arousal. You receive the 3 of Swords and the 9 of Cups. Now these are dipolar feelings in it. You know, you've got the heartbreak card with the wish card. I've seen this quite often recently where you get a really intense negative card with a really intense positive card, and they balance each other out. The 3 of Swords is about severing ties and painful rejection, disloyalty, infidelity, distrust. It can even be a triangle of affairs where somebody's married and you're not, and you're having an affair. And whatever happened in the past with the 10 of Swords and requiring the Judgment card and then the Devil and the Lovers card is blocking your spiritual and personal growth, and maybe even sexual. Everything's being held back. But you receive the 9 of Cups, which is the wish card, and you're seeking contentment and satisfaction, not in the tense form, but in the more mellow form. When I see this card, I always want to say, curiosity killed the cat, and satisfaction brought him back. Now this can be a ticket to redeem a one wish that you have. It can also be a get out of guilt card too. And on the negative side, it can be a card of indulgence and drinking or doing too much of something that could be connected to the Devil card. And this is reinforced up above because you received Temperance and the 7 of Pentacles for your solar plexus and your sensing and feeling. Now it's saying that you have to balance things out a little bit here. And maybe that's an understatement. And then again, Sagittarius rules temperance. So this card could be personifying you. You know, there's been some drastic change going on. And now it's time for you to rebuild and moderate things and take control of it. You know, shed these impulsive desires that evidently you've had. You know, habitual behavior conquers the urge for reform, and that's where the Devil card's at, is bondage. And with the Lovers card there's been some kind of rift with conflict, and everything's out of balance. And right now you have to start finding some harmony. You know, the Temperance card also is one of the few cards that can breach between the unconscious inner self to the conscious foreself. And it deals with balancing opposing forces without an explosion. Now, somewhere in the midst of this, you are finding some balance because you receive the 7 of Pentacles. And I call this card going to harvest. It's where you've sowed some seeds and you're nurturing things into growth. And that means you are having the patience to see some things grow into fruition. Now the set of cards are great. It's the heart of the matter here, and you receive the Chariot and the Empress. These 2 cards are about duality, right and wrong, good and bad. And the Chariot in particular points out about the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde syndrome. You know, you see the yin and yang symbol on the front of his chariot, and it is saying this is a duality. You have to start balancing it. And this card actually means discipline and self-control. That's why it has the military guise, because it's saying, yes, you have to discipline yourself, your behavior. It's about victory of overcoming opposition. And this is where you regain your confidence. Now the Empress is about fertility. And she also is about duality too, because she oversees planet Venus, and Venus is the star that rises in the east in the morning and sets in the evening in the west, and symbolizes endings and new beginnings. She's about home and the hearth and having satisfaction in your home life. And down on the bottom right, for your throat, for communicating and teaching, you receive the Eight of Cups and the Death card. This Eight of Cups indicates that painful times are eclipsing, and you're now going on the search for something that's been missing in your life. Because it's a freedom card. You're freeing yourself out of bondage. Maybe that Nine of Cups over there, the wish card, is the wish that you could release yourself from the situation. Because you're walking away from it. The way the cups are stacked in these cards says something's been out of balance. And you felt like maybe your life has been set adrift and hope's been lost. And now it's time to just walk away. And really it is. It's time to let it all go. With all these intense things going on, you receive the Death card for yourself to go into a transformation, and you have to let it go, because you have to let things go that are no longer serving you, that are not an advantage to your life anymore, so you can do a rebirth. You can take the advice of the Judgment card and go through a resurrection in your life. Change is not your enemy. I think you might be the enemy to change. And if you don't change, there's going to be loss. You know, fate leads the willing and drags the unwilling, because once the Death card gets a hold of you, it's going to happen regardless of you kicking and screaming. And it beckons for some kind of conclusion here. It wants you to turn the page to a new chapter in your life. You know, the Eight of Cups is telling you to don't let the door hit you in the back when you leave. You know, see, I wouldn't want to be you. Now up above for your third eye, for seeing and envisioning, you receive Star and the King of Wands. The Star card is about hope and healing. It's a card about orienting your life and taking a new life direction. You know, the stars are fixed up in the celestial sky, but us mere mortals are under constant change. And this is connected to the Temperance card, because these two cards bring guardians, some type of guardian angels or overseers into your life. The Star card also is about the fog lifting and being able to see things now with more clarity. The card before it is the Moon card, and that was obscure. Now here it's giving you a new view of things. And the King of Wands is there to help you through some of these challenges and to make you stronger. He's a problem solver and the kind of person that thinks out of the box, and he wants you to think out of the box too. He's a traditionalist, a visionary. He has foresight and insight into future problems. He's going to give you the ambition and courage to overcome these problems. Now up above for your crown, for knowing and understanding, you receive the Eight of Wands and the Emperor. You are taking control with the Emperor. He's the man that brings in structure and organization and responsibility. He brings in laws and rules and regulations to bring civility into the situation. This could even be some kind of elder, a person you go to, an older man, a patriarch that you go to for advice. Now you have the Empress in the heart of the matter, and you have the Emperor up here, and here's another balancing yin and yang. This is the perfect couple, the nurturing mother, the Alamata, with the demanding, commanding father that takes control of his empire and his family and his life. And the Eight of Wands is about change. It could be sudden change, but it's necessary change and the challenges that come with it. And having to deal with it and having that deal with it attitude. This card can be about cycles of life. My mother called it sunrise and sunset, where children are growing older, are growing up, and we're growing older year by year. But this is a really positive card. It's about positive change and having things going full speed ahead, because now you're seeing things a lot more clearly. And this is just like the Star card. It's reinforcing that. Recently, you've been having some epiphanies. You know, you're not confused any longer. You're starting to straighten things out in your life. Now, the future cards, you receive Death, the Eight of Cups again, and the World card. So yeah, in the future, you're still transforming. You're still changing. If you didn't realize you were in a transformation, you got the Death card twice in this reading, so it's telling you, okay, you're transforming. Realize you're doing it. Get rid of some of those useless beliefs and emotions behind. And welcome the new with open arms. Somewhere in the middle of this, there's going to be a grand finale. Because you have the Eight of Cups again. You're freeing yourself from bondage. You're walking away. You're letting it all go. And the Eight of Cups guy is walking right towards the World card. The card about endings. Ending a cycle. And I think you're going to appreciate seeing the backside of this cycle, because there are some pretty intense cards here. Now, I pulled a During Virtual card, Messages of the Angels card. And you receive Carissa. You are at the end of a cycle in your life. Call upon your angels to comfort you and to guide you to your next step. Happiness awaits you now. Well, how apropos. My goodness, you're at the end of a cycle. How many cards did we find at the end of a cycle? The Ten of Swords, the Judgment card, Death, the World. And then I discussed the angels too with the Temperance card, and also with the Star card. There definitely is some new beginnings going on here for you, and you just have to let some things go. And have acceptance, as I say, acceptance, peace, and happiness.